a young person at this stage. If you are 18 years, you should have done something for your community. But it's very unlikely that you would have done something very memorable for the community at the age of 18. But the law does not preclude us from naming features after young people. So let me just end there and hope that the Free State is going to go around towns, villages, and dorpies to create awareness so that when we leave and the young people take over, the country will reflect their languages, their culture, and their heritage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mthembu. I think this was really insightful and many of us could relate. But also it referred to focal points and the intention and matters of emphasis as to why the act exists and how therefore we should continue advocating for it to and pursue the mandate from all the corners of this country. I'm going to request that we engage now with the presentation from Mr. Mthembu, or rather, I think I'm working with time. Take a presentation. It's now 20 past. I think we have at least space to take a presentation from one other member to look into the relevance of traditional leaders in transforming the South African name. Who's finishing my sentences here? Yes, misfilling in the missing words, yes. Yes, and that one, that person, in fact, is right, yes. So what I'm going to request Councillor Mohlali to add and put emphasis on the role of municipalities and traditional leaders in transforming the naming landscape. Pela, I still say, Councillor, Minister gave me this right to command my elders. So that chair is a red chair, and work is going to be done. Over to you, Councillor.
No, thanks, Chair. And thanks, colleagues, once more. And I only hope, pray and trust that representatives of, or a representative of SALGA is amongst us. I won't even check whether he or she is here. I might get intimidated. The purpose of that is that SALGA is it's a representative body of local municipality structures, which then therefore means that it plays a very important pivotal role in the work that we are doing. And I'm going to illustrate that by going back to the Act. The Act expects of us, as the South African Geographical Names Council, to facilitate the establishment of provincial geographical names committees. In turn, provincial geographical names committees must facilitate the establishment of local geographical names committees. More often than not, I don't know whether it's because of resistance or because of people not being very sure of what to do and when. One would come across this thing from municipalities, that but we cannot do geographical name changes. And if you ask why, they are quick to say to you, it's an unfunded mandate. Let's say they are right. It's an unfunded mandate. There's no way in legislation where you can find expression that local municipalities must participate in the geographical naming process. However, local municipalities are empowered by the acts that are applicable to their work. Because for a municipality to get any project funded, there's a process that the municipality should follow. And that process is the integrated development planning process. So if in their IDPs, they identify geographical naming as one of their deliverables, it will be easy for them then, therefore, to put aside in their budget money to execute that, because it will be in their integrated development plan. But what does the Municipal Structures Act empower municipalities to do? The Act have two sections that empower municipalities to set up committees. It's Section 79 and Section 80, committees. But we have to be very, very careful, because what happens at municipality level is that a Section 79 committee will constitute entirely of councillors. Okay, the difference between the 79 and the 80 is in terms of who chairs it. The other one is it's more stringent. 80 is chaired by the MMC, and 79 they can elect their own chairperson. Now, having said that, but there's nothing below that that prohibits the municipality to set up a community representative committee. I used to call them the planning zone forums. That you have as a local planning zone forum, and then you then have a citywide planning zone forum. So you're allowed to do that. But what will then of these structures that we are talking about? You see, through the planning process of municipalities, more especially city planning, is that municipalities have a task to name and rename and public places, parks and so forth, cemeteries, blah, 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 blah. And the most important innovative way that municipalities can assess the process is if each municipality can have what we call a names bank, where they ask from members of the community to deposit names. And names can be deposited around specific themes. I always argue that municipalities can assist us dividing their areas of jurisdiction in terms of specific themes. Let me give you an example of the municipality I know most, which is Tshwane. You can imagine if all the streets around Loftus are named after sports heroes. So if you are in Tshwane and you want to go to a street called Jan Malombo Lechaba, a person would know immediately, even if he doesn't know where the street is, but he will know the direction. Okay. And then you have another precinct being of people who passed away in the different massacres that took place in Tshwane. The Mamelodi massacre, the Winterfeld massacre, and so forth and so on. So this is the easiest way in which municipalities can assist. But it will not mean much if this is not reciprocated by the support from SALGA. Meaning then, therefore, representative of municipalities, when they are at SALGA, they should champion resolutions that see to it that this is done. I'll give you some short history into the street naming in Tshwane. When 25 streets were identified in Tshwane, and it was said these 25 streets have to be renamed. Tshwane had to be very careful. One, we must avoid overutilization of names. You know, this thing of a person living from Nelson Mandela Street into Nelson Mandela Avenue, into Nelson Mandela Highway, passing Nelson Mandela Village, going to Nelson Mandela Airport, cannot be correct. Cannot be correct. So it must be avoided at all costs. Because the name gets tired. It can't be. The other way that municipalities can assist with is actually with awareness campaigns. During their consultation processes, more especially during the IDP process, they can make it a point that people around that area are made aware of this work that we are doing and how easy this work is. I mean, that application form, you can fill it up. I nearly said something which was not entirely correct, but I won't say it. But you can feel that thing during the consultation process. You can fill up that form. It doesn't need rocket science. So municipalities must have in them the will to participate in geographic name changing, as opposed to their resistance to the process, because it would only assist them. I remember during the Brandford process at the very beginning, and I'm happy that municipality did not carry that through, because the mayor then was even of the view that maybe naming Brandford after Winnie Mandela was not that appropriate. He was even suggesting naming the whole municipality. I think the name of the municipality is Masilo. Masilo Nyana, I hate Nyana, but be that as it may, Kenyana ya bona siaka. And I found that to be very progressive. But only local municipalities can name local municipalities. Because a local municipality is an area bigger than just a town. It puts in it different towns. So the name of a municipality is not within our jurisdiction, but the jurisdiction of the municipality. We can only come in and play an advisory role in terms of the process to consultation. You know, I like how the South African situation is fashioned. They say, do consultation. And then they say there must be sufficient consultation. And then consensus. And then sufficient. If you read between all those things, what you would realize, Mary Hannah, is that consultation in the stricter sense of the word within the South African lexicon, it's a process of telling people what you have decided. I don't know whether you hear what I'm saying. So when you work meticulously and smart enough, you can get away with murder. You can manufacture these things from the laboratory and take them outside and tell people what you have agreed in such a manner that they think they have agreed. But you need to be very smart, and probably coming from a part in Gqeberha that was described in the morning, where people will produce knives at the slightest provocation. But so what are the building blocks for municipalities? It's legislation that governs municipalities used in such a manner that it assists them to do the work that we are doing. That's number one. Two is to make sure that there's a national agreement, sort of like at SALGA level, so that once all municipalities sing from the same hymn book, it will make their work even easier. But let me take it another step below. Not that it's a lower step. No, I mean on the graph. Now, this is the role of traditional leaders. The lowest hanging fruit for traditional leaders is the registration of the names of their areas. If I go to Bopedi Raskukune and I say to a person, Mohlaletse, that person will tell me Mohlaletse is almost the capital of Skukuneland. But Mohlaletse is not registered as a name. Where my family comes from is called Mamone. But what you will find in the books is two farms, Wogelegen and Vergelegen. Mamone is not registered as a name. But then the next thing comes. A hospital is built in the area, is named after a daughter of a missionary priest. But the name of the hospital ends up being the name of the area, Jane Fairs. Why? Because our people have this thing. So we should not blame colonialism unless to the extent that it changed even the mindset of our people. When the person arrives in Johannesburg, he gets this one is from Niger, this one is where, this one is from Potgietersrus, another one is from Petersburg, and he thinks, yes, I'm going to say it to Amadibong. Nah, this will not go. Then he looks for the nearest English name, and voila, is the name of a hospital, Jane Fairs. And then he says, I am from Jane Fairs. He can't even spell Jane Fairs. I'm from Jane Fairs. So now you, Magnet Heights. What? You say what Heights? But magnetize. They can't say Magnet Heights, but magnetize. When I talk, it was Skinoto. And Skinoto in school word. I don't know who said Mr. Langeveld will object to the change of Noord-Geser. And I was laughing. I said, you know, people don't know where these names come from. Skoon-Geser. It means one morning, when they woke up, they found one Afrikaner with a clean face. And then they said, it is Skoon-Geser, the plek is Skoon-Geser. And they went to another area, they spoke to one, he could not understand them. They said, die het nie gedacht. Nooit gedacht. And you go, and you pride yourself about such names. And I know, if you go through the Free State, Otatshoog, some of the names. Because we want to have, and we think it's English names. They are not even Africans. Even the spelling is not Afrikaans. Okay. But here is another thing. The new settlement areas that come under our municipalities are given horrendous names. Padzima. You think they are talking about something, Kantibara something. Sirupi Mperekele. And a person who come with taxi, Kifulwa kamu kosurupi. Tunuza. Muna Alwale. Fulwa our heroes. Ever Tamboville. Kimo ho tshwara newspaper every weekend. Most crimes were committed to Kote. What is the next item on the agenda?
I think it's as clear as water now. Yeah. We couldn't have done it any other way. I wanted to check if members in plenary would want to engage now, or we proceed with the subcommittees now to complete the overall structure and how we proceed. Members, are there takers for questions between Mr. Mtembu's presentation and Councillor Mohlala's input on relevance of traditional leadership and municipalities in our work? No takers yet? Sorry? No questions? Or there's a question? Can we have a mic? We are on record.
What time is it? Afternoon. Sorry, I'm a little bit late because I run a radio show on an online radio station. I go by the name of Apostle Muso Mutswiga. That is my name. And my brother told me about this event and told me about this campaign, and he knows how passionate I am about such endeavors. And I am very grateful to be here. Everybody, I'm very grateful to be here, even if I'm late, but I'm very grateful. On the show that I do, I don't know who will I meet. On the show that I do, I have a section and a segment on the show where I call it Kasi May Kasi. That section called Kasi May Kasi is where I tell the people about the history of the Free State, where I will maybe get the name from Kroonstad, Ficksburg, and so forth. And I've started this thing since last week, where I had that segment called Kasi May Kasi. It broke my heart to understand when I was doing Kroonstad, to understand that the name Kroon was named after a horse. That Kroon was actually a horse owned by a white man. I don't like using the color. It was owned by a person, and that was the name given to the city. And it came to me, it said to me, when will that time come for this place to have a proper name? Then I moved, and the next day I did another town called Ficksburg, only to understand that Ficksburg was named after Johann Fick. It is a town that was captured by this guy by the name of Johann Fick. And I said to myself, I'm doing this thing, Kasi May Kasi, trying to teach my people about their province and so forth. But I still continue to embrace the names of the horse, the names of Johann Fick and so forth and so forth. And when will that day come so that when I do Kasi May Kasi, I will be giving them the history of maybe Terale Kota from Kroonstad, of maybe Andries Tatane from Ficksburg, where the place would be named after and that. And another thing that I would like us to remember and not to forget, it is something that I learned from a book by Professor Ngugi wa Thiong'o, Decolonizing the Mind. It is that apartheid and colonialism were total. Apartheid was in the classroom, apartheid was in the church, apartheid was in the bank, apartheid was in every sphere of life. And if we really, really want to address apartheid and all its horrible history, we must address it in the classroom, address it in the church, address it in all areas, even the most crucial area. It is the psychological space, where even Steve Biko said that we really need conscientizing our people. My wish is for this campaign not to be only here. It is for it even to go down, where it ends up having campaigns in the classroom, where it will be a campaign that goes to the high schools, that goes to the primary, so that it can work to conscientize and decolonize the minds of our people. That is my only input, and I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Those were comments. Fortunately, on your left and right, you are sitting next to council members. And then on your far left, you have a provincial representative in our council, Betladi, we can have further conversations. But you, Apostle, and many other South Africans, as long as you are over 18, you can submit your name change initiatives. So it is not for us as council. We receive and preside over the names. I'm happy that there's a program that pursues this so that we are able to talk more about these ventures. Over to you, sir. I saw a hand. Was it you? Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Itumeleng Motobi. Actually, my name is Abraham Joseph Itumeleng Motobi. Motobi Sene. And I got a comment, maybe, and questions there. But I will start by saying, in education or educationally, I've done only standard 10. And I am matric. I passed matric, and I never been to university or higher institutions. And sometimes I wonder about those who went there. Because I'm one of the people who went to Mokhabolo during early 90s. The ANC Mokhabolo and the PAC Mokhabolo, and we were taught there. So when we come to the naming of the renaming and the purpose of today, let me say it like that. People are like, they follow the leaders or the people who are talking, like maybe you will understand me, who are choosing to say something there. And while I was learning there are things which, like, I hear the words like land grab and theft. And I don't hear a word saying conquering, that there were places which were conquered, because in history, we were taught that other places were conquered. Now, when we rename this, the places which were stolen or grabbed or conquered, people follow only when they say, you will hear the heroines and heroes. The pastor just implicated about the horse. They don't talk about animals. They don't talk about plants. And they don't talk about insects. Like we got Tipilane. In Bloemfontein, I'm living in Bloemfontein. Do you know that there are people who doesn't know the difference between a cheetah and leopard? And they think when you say tiger, you talk about that animal from India. And they translate it to be ngwe. And here in South Africa, ngwe is that leopard. But most of the people don't understand that. So I'm asking from our leaders, when they are leading us, they must try to put out the propaganda or the political aspect. I think they put more of propaganda in there. Like, what is Bloemfontein? What, you see? But they don't check whether people that understand that if you are living in Mangaung and say, when you go to Gauteng and say, I'm living in Bloemfontein, you will never hear a person say, I'm living in Mangaung. So that is the problem, or that is the thing I think when we are renaming things, we should look at it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May over there and in front of me. Okay, 4 more hands. Let me start with my far left and give them attention. 1, 2, 3, all those hands so that we don't hop. And then one more hand in front of me. Yes, proceed, ma.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Silteng Kwaele. I am the Chairperson of Free State Heritage. I would like to speak on the point of relevance, and I would also like to address or pick up on the Deputy Chair's address on SALGA and traditional leadership. I also want to encourage us as a country to remember that we have to take on the role of change and education of change in our geographical name settings. I loved that he said that the local municipalities have the responsibility of naming new areas or renaming areas within their jurisdiction. That is beautiful. And would like to implore both local municipalities and traditional leadership to look to expressions that reinforce who we are, where we come from, and what we are made of. To look to names that help us build our communities, that help us teach our children about our heritage and our belonging. I'll make an example. And my example kind of really stems from the worry that in our namings, we are moving towards a personalization of societies. And we are forgetting that we are communities and we are collective. So, if there is a new settlement, it would really be beautiful because we must also remember that we are in a lapse and a gap of education, of language, of education, of culture and naming, right? So most of our children don't know names in our indigenous languages. Our children don't know trees, you know. They don't know the difference between Mokalo, Mokana, Motlhware, you know, and what the value of those trees are in our culture and what they provide for our societies. It would really be beautiful to perhaps come across a settlement, and I know one, where the municipality is deliberate in saying this section will be named after, the streets in this section will be named after indigenous trees. And with that, we've got an opportunity to educate our children, where perhaps it's lacking in the books or it's lacking in the curriculum. We've got an opportunity to say, with the name of the street, under the street name is an information board that says, this is the street Mokalo. Mokalo is a tree that grows in this environment. It has such purposes, or it's used in this scenario. That street will be there for generations to come. And whether or not that child is taught in school, that child is taught at home. That child is taught in their neighborhood about the values and the things that are important in their societies. I hope I've made sense and would like to implore us to really look to reinforcing our communal identities for the sake of our generations, because we are losing ourselves in our education. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Katlego Mafatle. I'm from Business Disability Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Mangaung. I'm the secretary. With the House at large, that let us not turn a blind eye when it comes to the when it comes to disabled society. Because as much as we are changing names of the places that we live in, we must remember that we have these people as part of the society. I hear the percentages were mentioned and everything, but I do not hear anybody saying anything about disabled society. And I feel like it's time that we include them, because as much as they might be silent, they are not able to voice out, or they do not have the opportunity to voice out their opinions about this. At the end of the day, it's gonna affect the decisions we make about the environment they live in. It affects them as much as it affects everybody else. And I believe that they have equal right to have a say about it. So we have what committees and everybody else and our traditional leaders that have meetings, but you find that the messages and the information do not arrive in time to these people. So can we go back to our drawing board and make sure that they are represented in the committees that we have, number one. Number two, we utilize the platforms we have so that they can also be accommodated in time, so that they can also voice out their opinions. Because remember, during apartheid and those ancient times, some of their disabilities, they got their disabilities at that time. One was not born with disability, but because of they were fighting for our land to come back and everything else that we have today that we are privileged to, that's when they got the disability. But it's painful when it comes to them and their families, that today they are being sidelined as if they did not contribute to the South Africa that we live in today. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. My names have not changed yet. I'm still Kholihlatla Alexander. I want to say, if you don't have community activists in any space, and if you are outsourcing your responsibility as activists of the name changing, they will not find its space. Because I'm saying that deliberately. At the moment, we are hosted by an entity of arts and culture, which we are part of. And we are at downstage of San Duplessis. There's another one that is called Andre Hichonet. And I don't think this council of PACOFs has any intention to make changes in those names. That is the first one. The second one is, the deputy chair talked about an important tool, which is the integrated development planning. Now, the integrated development planning is all of governments that must participate there. So, the Department of Sport, Art, Culture and Recreation must go and all of us who are activists in the name changing must participate in those processes. Because if you say I must do it because I'm not an activist in this field, it's going to fall by the wayside. So what I want to encourage is that we need to do that. Secondly, we also somebody talked about Bloemfontein. And if we want to change Bloemfontein as a name, what capacity are we giving communities? Some basic research work, or if I come with a name, because at least, is there some capacity that is given to communities on some research work that is done about the brief background of that particular area? If we then support or negate, so that at least you have some tangible information, because I'm told Bloemfontein is named after Bloem, who's a descendant of Adam Kok. How real is that? Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask Chairperson of, is it ERTA, to just, yes, I've noted you, to prepare a response along those lines of the research and how we interact with research and how critical research, yes. It's in the presentation, yes. So after this question, and then the subcommittees are going to come in, and then please try and put further emphasis on that question. Over to you.
No, thanks very much, Chairperson. My name is Neheng Mopedi. I'm the speaker in Watelo. First, to welcome the presentations that were made since we started. But I just want to also to request the presentations that were made so that we have those presentations. And it was said the Free State is moving very slow regarding the process itself. And really it is disturbing if you are in a meeting and you hear that the province that we are in, it's moving very slow. We do have documents in place, policies, but implementation, it's a problem because we don't have people who are monitoring the process itself. And remember, we are the new administrations. That needs to be taken on board on the process of this naming and renaming of streets and the buildings. I think to strengthen the intergovernmental relations is the responsibility of the department and also SALGA, maybe to have the team who will go to different districts and to come up with terms frames. Because remember, when the presenter was doing the presentation, we need to have policies as municipalities, but we don't have committees recently. The presenter is correct, Section 79 there, and make sure that we speed up the process as different municipalities. I think the team of PGNC of Free State, they have a lot of work to do. They must come to us as municipalities so that we are able to implement